Good morning, I'm Amna Tariq and welcome to our special coverage of 2024 elections on November 8th. Ethnic Media Services hosted a pivotal national briefing, bringing together a panel of experts to shed light on the factors shaping voter turnout and the potential implications of this year's election. From the influence of women voters to concern over the political violence, here's a summary of the key insights discussed during the session. The briefing held on November 8, 2024 by Ethnic Media Services, focusing on the significant element influencing the 2024 elections. This session brought together leading scholars and advocates to share their expert analysis on voters' behavior and its global ramifications. Among the notable speakers was Kelly Dittmar, Director of Research at the Center of American Women and Politics, who presented valuable insight into the critical role of the women's vote. Professor Robert from the Chicago Project on Security and Threat addressed growing concern about political violence, emphasizing how it could shape future voting behavior. John C., President of Asian American Advancing Justice, highlighted how immigration issues are driving voters' engagement, particularly within the Asian American community. Vanessa, Executive Director of American Voice, focused on Latino votes, stressing its increasing power in determining election outcome. Finally, Ben, Executive Director of the Syria Club, spoke about the intersectionality of civil rights and environmental issues in the electoral process. The event was accessible in several languages, including Spanish, Korean, and Mandarin, ensuring that diverse communities could fully engage with the discussion. The briefing highlighted the importance of understanding the social and political dynamics at play in the 2024 elections, especially in relation to communities of color. The women's vote remained a decisive force in 2024 election, with increasing participation and influence. Immigration issues continue to be a key driver for the voter motivation, particularly among Asian American and Latino communities. Political violence is an urgent concern, with experts warning of its potential effects on voters' behavior. The Latino vote is being actively mobilized, with organizations like America's Voice playing a crucial role in shaping outcomes. As we await the final result of the 2024 election, the insight from this national briefing, after a deeper understanding of the complex factors influencing voter turnout and engagement, from women's political power to the growing impact of immigrant communities. These issues will undoubtedly shape the future of United States and resonate worldwide. Stay tuned for more updates as we continue to track the impact of these elections.
And I still think that's true. And I think that is reflected both in the outcome I want to say a word about and then in future political violence. So point number one on the outcome. The CNN and the NBC exit polls, I think, paint a fairly straightforward picture about what happened here in terms of the facts, which is that blue-collar Hispanics voted in huge numbers, almost half, for Trump, and that made the decisive difference. Yes, we saw more Black males, we saw others, not as many women for Harris, but the bottom line is that what happened is, as America is shifting to a multiracial America, there's been a huge assumption by everybody, which is this will be a progressive future, that it will just naturally work to the progressives. Well, what happened here is that Donald Trump and his campaign built a stronger multiracial coalition.
Something we have to understand is that this is a different world than it was 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years ago. Very different. Thank you so much.
More of a tinderbox.
Yes, it is.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. And I'm going to move on to Kelly Dittmar. She's Director of Research at the Center for American Women and Politics at Rutgers University. We want to know what you have to share with us about the role of women voters. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me today. I'm going to begin with a big caveat that a lot of us might be relying on exit poll data for our understanding, and in this case, of women's voting behavior. But these are data that are likely to still be adjusted in the coming days and weeks.
In what seems to be a hyper male climate. And I've seen some analysis about why men and why Latino men move to the right or move towards Trump, having to do with their masculinity being recognized and cuddled by Trump in some way. And yeah, I mean, do you think that was a big factor or no?
Well, I think that we've seen Donald Trump, since he's been on the scene, including in 2016 and 2020, play into what is a traditional masculinist politics, right? And particularly tap into a grievance around masculinity being threatened. So psychologists would call this precarious masculinity, right? The idea that men and women, by the way, who believe that there should be.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate this opportunity to talk to all of you. My name is John C. Yang. I am the President and Executive Director of Asian Americans Advancing Justice, AAJC. Our mission is to advance the civil and human rights of Asian Americans and to promote a fair and equitable society for all. Certainly in this time, while we are all processing our emotions, for our organization, it is also a matter of redoubling in our efforts to ensure that there is a fair and equitable society for all. So one of the things that our organization did was we partnered with other civil rights organizations to conduct what we call an American electorate voter poll. This poll was conducted in the 2.5 weeks leading up to the election, and it polled over 9,000 people, including over 18.
For us to take a deep breath. And the reason I say that is because, as you know, immigration was the tip of the spear for Trump. And our immigrant communities are right now feeling, I think, very scared and worried about what their futures hold. But I want to say that as a movement, we survived the first Trump White House, and we're going to survive this one again. As immigration advocates, there's a lot to reckon with in this week's results and to prepare for during a second Trump term. But we know with confidence that we're going to stand up and speak out for our immigrant friends and neighbors, our dreamers, both with and without DACA, and TPS holders, and other folks worried about what Donald Trump's election means for their families and futures in America.
Your thought.
Well, thank you for having me. And for this audience, maybe what's even more important than me having led the NAACP or League in the Sierra Club now is that I'm the former managing editor of the Jackson Advocate newspaper, the oldest Black newspaper in Mississippi, and former colleague of Sandy Close's when I ran the NNPA, which is the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the federation of Black newspapers in this country. It is good to be back home talking with fellow leaders of color with ink in their blood, fellow journalists of color serving our communities. The Sierra Club is the oldest, largest environmental group in the country. We founded in 1892. We're the only environmental organization in all 50 states, and we're in 600 communities. And we are an increasingly diverse organization. We have Asian American, our president of our club, Allison Chen, is Asian American from Los Angeles. Our treasurer, Cheyenne Sky Branscombe, is tribal Native American from Oklahoma. Our vice president, Shruti Bhatnagar, of course, is South Asian. And I'm the first Black person and the first person of color to be the CEO of the club. Looking at this, and we are the organization that brought us the national park system. We have helped to build more than 400 national parks. And more recently, we've made headlines.
For Kelly and for everyone else, what is the most important thing you want us to take away from this discussion? Let's start with Kelly Dittmar.
Yeah, I think I would just reiterate this piece about, I worry about a narrative that, first of all, blames any one group of people for the outcome of this election. In particular, when we talk about women in the work that I do, the idea that women somehow lost an election for this woman candidate, when in fact we know that it was the majority of men who voted for Donald Trump. But beyond that, really thinking beyond whether or not she lost or won because she was a woman, whether or not voters should align with their gender universally or their race even, to think more deeply about the roots of racism and sexism in the country, how it shapes our political institutions, and how that can then shape how voters respond. So somebody in the chat had asked about class, is class more important? I think you cannot disaggregate these things. Race, gender, class, right, are all working in ways that have led to this result. And so if we want to not only elect a woman president, but grapple with the fact that we were willing to elect this particular candidate, we have to dig deep on those roots of racism and misogyny in particular, and figure out why this is not a disqualifying factor.
Hoping we do that. John, that's your take.